Hey people, welcome to the channel, and after a 5k, 10k and marathon test, I am now ready to tell you what I make of the brand new ASICS Metaspeed Sky Plus. Should this be your new marathon shoe? How does it compare to the last generation? And have we got a new carbon race fast day shoe to rival the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 and the Adios Pro 2? Watch on to find out. But before we get into the detail around this shoe, one quick thing. If you want to support the channel and help me make more videos like this one, then hit the subscribe button, share these vids with your running friends. All of that stuff really helps with the supporting of the channel and will help me to make more videos and keep them coming on other shoes. There are plenty of them to test after all. Anyway, now let's get into whether or not this should be your next racing shoe. Like the previous generation Metaspeed series, the speedy new 5k to marathon carbon plated running shoe comes in two flavours, the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Metaspeed Edge Plus. Both shoes have been made with faster runners in mind, and the research that informed the design was based on sub 3 hour marathon pace runners. The Metaspeed Sky Plus is designed to help stride runners. We think that's a euphemism for heel strikers to run at faster paces with more efficiency and less fatigue. The tech in the Metaspeed Edge Plus hopes to power fast stepping cadence runners to faster times. Both shoes feature significant changes to their first generations too. But focusing on the Metaspeed Sky Plus, what you're going to get here are new motion wrap mesh uppers, a bigger volume of springy responsive nylon fly foam turbo midsole foam, and ASICS says that is 20% lighter with 10% more energy return than its other foams. There's also a repositioned and new shaped carbon plate. That's designed to work with a new anatomical toe spring forefoot shaping. With the Metaspeed Sky Plus, the carbon plate sits higher in the midsole closer to the foot, and that creates a more even compression of that foam across the full width of the midsole, and the aim here is to produce a higher bounce from every step. It's tweaked outsole rubber placement for grip and durability too. ASICS has also attempted to improve the foothold, moving to the Loctite rib laces that we've seen on the Nike Vaporfly as well. There are also some very snazzy new colourways too, the kind that you absolutely have to run fast in. Onto the key details then. Well, the stride runner friendly Metaspeed Sky has the same 5mm drop and midsole stack as the first generation, with 33mm in the heel and 28mm in the forefoot. The Sky Plus weighs 203 grams in a UK men's 8.5, and that's lighter than the Adios Pro 2 at 231 grams, but slightly heavier than the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 at 197 grams. And the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Edge Plus will come in at €250, $250 in the US and £225 in the UK. It goes on sale worldwide on June the 14th this year. Now, before we get deep into the run test on the Metaspeed Sky Plus, there's one thing to say here, and that is that there's almost sort of two flavours of the shoe. You've got the Metaspeed Sky Plus, which is designed for stride runners, so people, I think that means who might be kind of landing a little bit further forward, maybe hitting their heels a bit more, and the Metaspeed Edge Plus, which is about kind of cadence runners, people who've got a higher turnover of feet, you know, your feet are striking the ground more frequently. Now, the difficult thing, I think, here is going to be deciphering which of those runners you are and which of those shoes maybe gives you the most. I haven't run in the Edge Plus, so I can't really compare. I'm trying to get hold of them, so I'm going to do a comparison to see. I ran in the Sky Plus, and I think that may colour what I'm about to say about this shoe and how it compares to some of the other carbon racers. So onto that run test then. What have I done in it? Well, I've done a fast 5k race. I ran at a 19:22 in race conditions out in this shoe, almost the first time I got to wear it. And I also did a 10k, which was a mixture of kind of sort of steady paces and then some faster paces, kind of marathon pace for me if you think about kind of, you know, sort of 6:30, 6:40 minute miles. I've also done a marathon test where I ran 13 miles in this shoe and I ran 13 miles in the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2, swapping them every 6 miles to do a good comparison. And then I've also done some extra miles in the Metaspeed Sky Plus, just kind of regular miles at different paces to see how they get on outside of those kind of conditions. Now, the first thing I want to say about this shoe is this is a fast shoe. It's definitely a fast shoe. I managed to run that 5k 19 minutes, kind of 22 on really tired legs. I've done a double run the day before. I haven't really done lots of fast training. And when I moved up to those kind of, what is it, like 6 minute, 10 sort of mile paces, something like that, was flying in this shoe and it felt really good. This shoe, ASICS has even admitted, has been designed with sub 3 hour marathon runners first and foremost in mind. So people are going to be moving at that kind of pace and lower. And I think that's, for me, throughout my kind of run test so far, even when I did the 10k, where it was a mixture of kind of paces, and then when I did the marathon test, that's kind of how I felt about this shoe. I really feel like it comes into its own when you're moving really well at faster paces and actually with your kind of best form. So that for me was when I was kind of up and engaging the kind of the toe spring here in this and engaging that carbon plate. And I felt like I had to work sort of relatively hard initially to kind of find where on how to get the most out of this in terms of my running form. I had to sort of work my way into it. It wasn't a natural kind of sort of put them on and they just felt good to go. I had to sort of think about foot placement to really engage it. Now, what happens when you're running not on your best form and when you're kind of maybe a bit slower, so during the marathon test towards the end of those miles where tired legs, kind of fatigued, I feel like there's two things going on here which are sort of almost contradictory. So one of the things that's going on here, you've got this big stack of Flight Foam Turbo, you've got quite a lot in the heel and in the forefoot. And actually the way that the plate is positioned, the idea is that the plate in the Sky Plus is designed to kind of engage more of the foam across the foot. And that changes in the edge where it's kind of a little bit more localized in terms of using the kind of the plate to engage the foams at, you know, at that point when you're kind of high cadence forefoot running. Now, the one benefit of that is when you're a bit more ragged, you've got a bit more foam underfoot. And so there does feel like there's a little bit more protection further back in the shoe if you start to sort of drop to an unhappy plod. So where's that going to be useful? One thing I think about is when you're running a marathon, if you've gone out to do a marathon, you're hoping for the best, your maybe training has gone sort of 75% well, and then you either go too fast or you blow up and then you find yourself on the struggle bus at some point. And it helps to have shoes that can accommodate when things go wrong. You know, if you're going to sort of basically, sort of hop home to a certain extent for those last 6 miles. We've all been there, I think. These shoes seem to work like that. And while that's kind of a good thing, there's a difference here with the Vaporfly Next Percent, which I think when you put the Next Percent on, as I did during the marathon test for the last kind of 6 miles, I came in on these, I was feeling sluggish, a bit heavy. I don't think these guys, the Metaspeed Sky Plus, encourage you as much as the Vaporfly Next Percent to get into a form that's going to help you. You know, actually, weirdly, the Vaporfly sort of almost make you run, I think, in a form that sort of, I don't know, it's like you have to run kind of slightly, you have to run well in them. There is no sort of forgiving place to drop back. It doesn't feel comfortable. So you're almost sort of made to run in a form that feels kind of more efficient, I think, in the Vaporfly Next Percent. I'm not sure you get that with this. I think you can be a bit lazy in these. And while, you know, so it's a bit of a kind of double-edged sword. Like, it's a good thing because actually, if you can't get up to that fine form, this will give you a bit more protection. But actually, it may be a bad thing that it's not kind of making you have a go at that, whereas the Vaporfly Next Percent, I think, do. So I'm torn for this in terms of a marathon racer. I think that actually, if you're not sure what you're going to get, you're kind of, it's on a knife edge, and you want to go and have a crack at it, you want to roll the dice, then I think the Metaspeed Sky Plus has a lot to say for it, because if that all goes wrong, you're going to have something that might save you towards the end if you really can't get back into that kind of good form and good kind of rolling motion. In terms of kind of step-in comfort, I really like this shoe. It feels comfortable on the foot. It was nice from the moment I put it on. I think they've got a good kind of balance of cushioning here. There's a bit more, I feel, than you'll find on something like the Vaporfly Next Percent and the Adios Pro 2. They've got these locking laces that hold the foot down well. I didn't have any kind of lace pinch from the top. That was kind of cool. I think the uppers just offer just enough structure. I think that's kind of everything there, I think, is great. And I did enjoy my miles in these. I do feel like they're a nice, happy shoe to run in. I think there is a difference here with the Vaporfly Next Percent. I think the Vaporfly Next Percent kind of almost feel like they tilt you forward a little bit more from the moment you put them on. And I think that's partly where it's sort of encouraging you to kind of run with that kind of high cadence, high turnover. And I think to a certain extent, there may be a bit more similarity with the Adios Pro 2 here in terms of how you've got that kind of the stack of cushioning that runs across the bottom of the foot. Unlike the Adios Pro 2, you don't get that kind of slightly odd. There is a slight cutaway in the back of the Metaspeed Sky Plus, but it's not as pronounced as you get on the Adios Pro 2. And I think the Pro 2s that sort of tend to make you feel like you sit back and roll out a little bit with those. You don't get that here with these. So yeah, I think actually I prefer that with the Metaspeed Sky Plus. I think the overall kind of on the foot feel as well from the Metaspeed Sky Plus is better than with the Adizero Adios Pro 2. I think the uppers are more comfortable. I feel like they just lace down a bit. It's a bit happier, and I just feel like the kind of your foot just feels a bit more natural in these than the Adios Pro 2. Now, one question I've had a lot from when I did the marathon test was how different are the Metaspeed Sky Plus to the last generation. do they make it's a huge step forward? I don't really feel like there's a massive difference out there on the run. I didn't really feel like they were doing an awful lot more. I mean, I like the old generation and I like this shoe, and yeah, I think they haven't fiddled too much. I mean, the colorway is better. I really love this. Wasn't such a fan of the oranges and the reds. I think this is kind of pretty snazzy. So I think we're talking evolution here, not revolution. And then when it comes to durability, I don't think there's an awful lot to choose between these three shoes. One thing that we were hoping might have changed with the Metaspeed Sky Plus was that we'd have a bit more kind of rubber protection on the heel. You can still, I've still got some kind of grazing here that's happened kind of from those runs. I don't think it's going to affect the overall kind of run of the shoe, but you know, it's maybe nicer to have that covered. In terms of the compressions of the foam, I can't see there's going to be a huge amount of difference in the mileage you're going to get out of these three shoes. I think certainly from the Metaspeed Sky Plus and the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2, I feel like you're going to get a similar kind of mileage performance out of that. I feel like you might get a little bit more out of the Adios Pro 2. I just feel like, you know, that foam feels a little bit more robust. I put a few more miles in it and it doesn't seem to have, you know, affected it in any way, shape or form. So yeah, I just feel like these Adios Pro 2 might last a little bit longer. So my verdict on the ASICS Metaspeed Sky Plus is this. I think ASICS has made a very, very good shoe here. If no other shoes existed, someone gave you these to race in, I think from 5K up to the marathon, you'll be very happy indeed. When you're running well and you're out attacking your runs at your top paces, particularly for me, I'm just around the kind of mark of the sort of sub-3 marathoner that they're looking at, and I can handle those kind of sort of 6 minute something mile paces, then I think this shoe is a really happy shoe to run in. I enjoyed racing in it. I think it definitely kind of helped me get a better performance out of my legs than I thought I deserved on that day. And yeah, I think overall it's got great comfort. I think you get a good lockdown. I think they've got quite a well-balanced shoe. But, and there is a but here, I don't think it's as punchy as the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2. I just don't think it makes me get into my kind of racing kind of mode as much as the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. Partly because I think that kind of higher stack that runs to the back of the foot, I think it's harder to find the perfect kind of sweet spot for engaging the technology that's in this shoe to get the most out of it. I feel like that just kind of happens when I put on the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent. It almost puts me forward. I also have to almost like one way that I can run in those shoes. Whereas with this, I feel like you can be a little bit sloppier. So, you know, that's good if you want a bit of protection and you're not sure how the race is going to go, but also maybe there's something to be said that you don't have an option, which I think is what happens with the Vaporfly Next Percent. If I was going to go out and choose a shoe to race in still, if I was going to go for a marathon or a half, or even further down the scale, I think I would still be going with the Vaporfly Next Percent. Now, up against the Adios Pro 2, I think this shoe has a lot actually more to say about it than the Adios Pro 2. I do feel like the Adios Pro 2 is a punchy run. I really kind of like the spring that you get from this shoe. But overall, in terms of the comfort and the sort of, I think the ASICS Metaspeed Sky offers a bit more of a natural run. I think it feels better on the foot generally across the uppers. I think it locks down better and the lacing feels better. Yeah, and I think there's maybe a bit more versatility in the Metaspeed Sky Plus than you'll get in the Adios Pro 2. Sometimes I feel like with the Adios Pro 2, I have to put them on when I'm kind of going to be racing all out, and that's the only time that I would really run in them. Whereas the Metaspeed Sky Plus, I feel like I would be happy to do a lot more kind of fast training runs in as well. So when it comes down to it, I think for me personally, despite the changes to this shoe and the fact that ASICS have produced a very, very good race shoe that I think a lot of people will like running in, I still think for me the pecking order kind of remains the same. I think I would be choosing the Vaporfly Next Percent as my kind of go-to for racing. I think for all-out race performance, I would still pick the Adios Pro 2 over the ASICS Metaspeed Sky Plus just on the day if I was going all out and I knew I was going to run well. If I was looking for something that had a bit more versatility though, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to get on that marathon race day, and I wanted something that might be good for my kind of faster training runs and going to race day, then I think the Metaspeed Sky Plus has a place in a rotation for that alone. But you have to factor in the price here as well though, which is, you know, these two guys, the Vaporfly Next Percent, £225, the Adios Pro 2 at £180. This one starts to look like a bargain actually if you're thinking about just buying a race shoe alone. So if price is a factor, then I think that's when the Adios Pro 2 sort of starts to become a lot more attractive. I think the final thing to say is I can't really wait to get my feet into the Metaspeed Edge Plus, because I think that might be a shoe that's going to actually be better for me, be a brilliant comparison with the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2, and also how I feel about the Alphafly. So hopefully we'll have that to bring you on the channel soon. But for now, that has been my run test and my verdict on the ASICS Metaspeed Sky Plus and how it compares to the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 and the Adidas Adios Pro 2. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell to get notified when the other reviews come up on the channel. Ask me questions about all of these shoes in the comments below. I'll endeavour to answer as many as I can. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about them, and I hope to see you again soon on the channel. Thanks for watching.